Lorianne asks, when am I going to propose Capriciana? Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys had a great day, great week. Today we're going to be doing our Q&A that I've been promising for a little minute. I did get a lot of questions. I'm going to try to knock through, as many questions as I can. If y'all want, y'all can always have a part two. Just let me know in the comments below. All right, first question we got from Shanita CTV. She got 3 questions actually. The first one was, how old am I? I am 22 years old. I just turned 22, March 18th. Me and Capriciana celebrated like we celebrate. I think this is probably about the third birthday of mine that we done celebrate together, and about 2 of hers that we done celebrated. We're about to, her third is coming up though, so. But yeah, you got another question. Okay. How many siblings do I have? I have 2 siblings that, I grew up with. Their names are AJ and Rain, better known as, Dwayne, and I'm pretty sure Rain goes as Rain, maybe Jayla sometimes, who knows. But yeah, those are the 2 siblings I grew up with. I am the oldest in that household, but I do have a lot of step siblings. They ranged in their like 30s and 40s. My dad, he got busy. He got busy when he was younger, but yeah, I have somewhat of a relationship with, some of them not so much. But, I really consider, AJ and Rain, those are my 2 dogs. Them are my bread and butter right there, Them the people that I know I can rely on through everything. Not saying I can't, with my other siblings, but, it just, they're way older than the 3 of us. So it's very much a disconnect sometimes, if that makes sense. Where did me and Capriciana met? We met at Starbucks, the Starbucks in the airport. Yeah, we both worked there. I chopped up. I got good game, so I'm pretty sure I did pretty good. She was into me. She just needed a hero to save her day, and I came to save it. Mary C asks, how long have I had my locks? I've had my locks for a little bit over 2.5 years now. Coming in October, it'll actually be the third week I've had my locks. I mean, third year. Yeah, they're considered actually pretty healthy. I probably do need to get a retwist more than I do. I try to get a retwist every 3 months, but yeah, my favorite stage was probably this is probably the best stage I'm in right now. I like the length of it. I don't know if I'll eventually cut them off one day or, what length I might want. I might want it's my chest. I feel like that's just something that I kind of got to see, because I hear a lot of people say the longer their locks, it's harder to style it. I feel like my length right now is the perfect style length. And even then, I feel like I'm really kind of getting past like the length that they're supposed to be, honestly. Trinity family asked me, how did I come to know or believe in Jesus, and my testimony. So, I grew up in we were religious in a way, we believed in God and Jesus, but we didn't really practice as much, So I feel like, I've always known God, but I've never really put my faith in God, right? I feel like until recent years, is where I really, come full cycle into really giving myself to Jesus, right? And as far as my testimony, that's a video for a whole nother day. That's a whole bucket list to, unravel. Yeah, let me know in the comments again if you want that. But yeah, that's definitely a story worthy of telling. And I probably will tell that. I don't know if I might tell it in the near future or what's to come, but yeah, stay tuned for that. Myla asks, what's my favorite movie, color, and gospel song? So my favorite gospel song belongs to Elevation Worship. It's either Jireh or Talking to Jesus. I love both of those songs. I love I just love how I feel, when them songs play. But in terms of overall artists, a new artist I've been listening to a lot, Jackie, I don't want to, butcher her last name, but it's Jackie Leg something, right? I just love her tone and her music. My favorite color is blue. My favorite color kind of changes every now and then between green and blue, but for the most part, it's blue. Blue, just a nice, cool, calm, collected color. I feel like that kind of matches my whole character. My favorite movie? Now I love movies. I can talk about movies for a little minute, but my favorite movie is definitely probably Jurassic Park and Titanic. Jurassic Park and Titanic. Titanic is one of the only, if not the only movie to actually make me cry. And Jurassic Park, that has been that got me into dinosaurs, right? Like I really love dinosaurs and animals, and I really have Jurassic Park to thank for that, right? And I feel like that also is one of the first things that, I was hyper fixated on as a kid, and, just make me grow to, want to know more about dinosaurs. So I grew to want to know more about everything, right? And yeah, I think when I was like 5, when I was 5, my biological dad, I think it's the only gift he ever gave me, but he gave me like this big dinosaur toy. I might show y'all a clip if I can find it, but yeah, that was real nice. I feel like I've just always loved dinosaurs, toys, everything, movies, documentaries, all of that. Number 3 movie, I'm not gonna lie, it might be like a horror movie. Like, I don't think I have like a top 3 worthy horror movie, and that's kind of crazy to say because horror is like my favorite genre of movie. But Chucky in general as a character, like, the Child's Play franchise, I love that. I love anything to do with Disney movies like Hercules, Lion King, Brother Bear, Treasure Planet, all of that good stuff. Fox and the Hound, that used to be me and my brother's stuff right then back there. Milford asks, what's the top 3 places that I want to visit? Top 3 places I want to visit is Venice, Italy. I just feel like that's a great romantic setting. Also like Africa, like South Africa and West Africa. I really want to go visit there because, like I just said, I'm really in love with animals, and I feel like, I would love to like do like a nice safari, enjoy the culture of the motherland, just see the sights out there. A third place, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I could maybe see Hawaii. I could see that. I could definitely see Hawaii. But like South America and stuff, Brazil maybe. I could do Brazil like during Carnival time. That'd be real cool. I'm not gonna lie. I would definitely enjoy that. But yeah, I'm really just now, like, again, within like recent years, like really kind of getting into travel and like really enjoying, going out, seeing the rest of the world. Like I've been on South Atlanta all my life, so, and I was really kind of content with that until, I seen what else is out there. Do I want to have my own plumbing business one day? I could definitely see that in the cards for me. I could, that 100% very well could be in the cards. I'm not sure if this is just like, a stepping stone or like, something that I could permanently do, but I definitely haven't counted it out. I definitely could do it one day. That's an interesting question that, it makes me think, because it makes me have to think about my future and, what I plan on doing as a career. My favorite food Capriciana makes. Man, okay, I love everything she makes. I'm kidding. Yeah. Most stuff I like, you feel me? But I feel like that's normal, But I love her Alfredo and her enchiladas. Them be some of my favorite things she makes. I love her oven-baked ribs too, I'm not gonna lie. Her mac and cheese. I didn't like mac and cheese before I met Capriciana. She actually made me like mac and cheese again, which I actually never had, not since I was a little kid. But yeah, if I had to pick between her Alfredo and her enchiladas, I might go enchiladas. I probably would go enchiladas. Her food overall be like a solid 8 out of 10, I feel like the food I make for her be like a 6 or 7 out of 10 sometimes, right? But I'm still learning, I got to get in the kitchen more, make my girl a meal every now and then. What's more painful, leg day or stepping on a barefoot toy at 3 a.m.? See, now I feel like with leg day, me personally, I love leg days, right? Like a lot of people ignore their legs in the gym. I love it. But it do be a real pain afterwards. Like, You ain't gonna care. It'd be making you not want to come back and do it the next day. So that's real tough. But at the same time, like a barefoot toy, it's like you don't expect it like you expect the gym. So like it start hurting. But I feel like overall, I would say leg day hurts more, but it also hurts in a better way. If that makes sense. Like you kind of enjoy the pain after a while of doing it. Like the soreness feels like you completed something. Glorianne asks, when am I going to propose Capriciana? So for reasons I can't tell you guys that, simply because a lot of you guys come from, her channel. And not only that, it'd be different energies, and, not everyone wants, the best for you. Capriciana also made me kind of look at things that way, right? But, yeah, like I can't, if I tell you guys, like, think about it, like she would automatically know, and we can't be having that, right? You feel me? Like there's only a select couple people I would tell, and most of them aren't even family. Maybe not even any of them are family. So it's like, respectfully, I can't even, tell y'all, but I will say, don't worry about that. Okay. It's not a, like a we don't do that long-term boyfriend, girlfriend, claiming wife, claiming husband kind of deal. That ain't what this is, right? But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I'll just say, she's in good hands. Okay, she's in good hands. Don't worry. I got y'all, girl. Calm down. Next up, we have 7 comments from Good at Everything. First question being, what's some of the best advice I've ever gotten? Some of the best advice I've ever gotten actually came from my girlfriend. Just reminding me, keep God in the center of everything, and also just, make sure that, I prioritize, God, because I feel like a lot of times when I be having problems, I try to handle things myself, and I don't be keeping my faith, but I be feeling like I be trying to reflect, on that piece of advice, whether I'm acknowledging that she said it in the moment of when I go through some or not, but regardless, it's like that thought is instilled in me because, she planted the seed in my head in the first place, Number 2, how did I feel when I knew I was going to be a father? So I feel like a lot of people probably feel like, scared, nervous, or, some people even go as far as like, oh, I don't want that baby, It was never I don't want that baby. I don't feel like that's what I was thinking. I was definitely afraid, I was scared, but, at the same time, I was ready, It's like, being realistic, I know what I was doing. So it's like, I'm gonna be a man and I'm gonna step up, I know, whatever happens, I'm gonna be, the best dad I can, because my biological daddy wasn't in my life, so I knew I wasn't gonna be no deadbeat, right? Not only that, I genuinely had love for Capriciana, and I still do. So it's like, I'm gonna make sure she's good no matter what. But yeah, that initial thought though, like you were saying, I'm not gonna lie, it was straight fear. It was straight, what am I gonna do? I don't got a car, I don't got my own place yet, really just gotta figure it out, it's time to man up, That's really what I was thinking. And a lot of people don't be thinking like that. A lot of people be trying to find their escape, people don't want to deal with the repercussions of their actions. What am I most looking forward to do with my family within the next year? Travel. I feel like, within the next year, I want to travel a lot. Onyx still hasn't, done anything real big other than, go to the beach. But like, as all of us as a family, we want to do, we want to show Onyx a lot of stuff, and he ain't gonna cat, like, sometimes I be the one where it's like, oh, Onyx can't enjoy that anyway, he don't be any fun. But, I do understand, it don't always be about, about how well he enjoys it, or, about he's not going to remember it. Sometimes it just be about the memories we make as parents, and we're still doing family time regardless, we're having fun. He's having fun because he's with us, so I definitely wanted to travel. I feel like I want to do just a lot of traveling in general though. like next year and like all the years to come. My favorite personality trait of mine, my favorite personality trait that I feel like I have is kindness and gentleness. I haven't always been like, well, I feel like I've always kind of been a gentle spirit, but back, and this kind of goes back to the testimony video that, I'll promise I'll give you guys one day. But, I was a very wrathful and, very vengeful, very angry person, and I feel like that just wasn't who I am. That's what just, I don't know, it was like a spirit just had a hold of me, like spirit of depression, anger, anxiety, all of that was holding on to me. But I feel like I'm gentle in nature and I'm really loving and, patient. I feel like patience is something I've really, come to really have. I feel like I've always kind of had patience, It was just that period in my life I felt like I did have a real short temper. But yeah, I feel like you can ask my family or, my girlfriend, I'm just a very loving person and a very touchy person too, very physical person. Love hugs, love kisses, just love. Any advice to a mom trying to eat healthier? Yes, okay, so since you're a mom, I'm assuming what you're suggesting is, your kids don't really like eating all the healthy stuff. They don't like, the vegetables and stuff. They like they like the dino nuggets and, all the sweets and candy, all the junk food. My advice, whether you're a mom or not, start slow. Don't try to cut everything out of your diet immediately, all the junk food you eat. I feel like it's best to, start restricting yourself, start taking away certain things. Because when you go cold turkey with food, it can be very easy to relapse. You can do good a whole week, but Saturday comes and, you just binge eat nothing but bull junk and you're back to square one. That's why it's best to like limit yourself and just have a little bit every now and then rather than just cutting it out completely, because you know you're gonna have it. Until you build the discipline to just cut it out completely, start slow. Don't set yourself up for failure. It's such a hard task. Also, another recommendation I have is meal prep. Meal prep makes it so much easier because, I know a lot of times, the healthier you eat, the more often you have to cook instead of, like throwing in maybe like a quick hot pocket that'd be like 3 times as many calories. Excuse me. But yeah, meal preps, that way, you only got to cook maybe like 1 to 2 times throughout the week, and you can just grab some real quick. Because honestly, that'd be a lot of times that'd be the problem. That's why we love fast food. We don't love how it tastes, we just love how convenient it is. So once you start making cooking at home more convenient than it is to go outside, you in there, you probably not even gonna want fast food ever again for real. You can always make unhealthy alternatives, right? To where like you can have your fried chicken and stuff, but you can, use like low calorie, low salt, low fat, ingredients, low fat oils, A lot of people be using vegetable oil, use olive oil, it's still high in calories, but it is still way healthier, And a lot of times high calories don't mean that it's unhealthy, Avocados, really healthy, but I would not recommend it or eating a lot of it for weight loss. Take this little bit of advice I gave you. I'm gonna keep on making cooking videos too and workout videos. You got this, I believe in you. Now, I see you also said, you wanna work out too, and they take a lot of your time and energy. Now, I'll say, if you have a support system, I don't know your situation, but if you have a support system, use it. I'm sure, especially you have a good support system, I'm sure your family doesn't mind watching them maybe like 45 minutes to an hour of their day, while you get a quick little workout in. The workout don't gotta be no more than 30 minutes, right? You just need to do a little something, get a little bit of activity in. Even the little steps you take throughout the house, that's the plays a big part, Try to get, a lot of people say try to get 10,000 steps, but, I say starting off, try to just get 7,500 steps, unless, you're only getting like 2,000 steps, then get 5,000 steps. Again, this goes back to, taking baby steps, doing things in small portions, And also, I don't know if you have a stroller, if your kids are like stroller age, But I'd also definitely recommend, going on walks with them. I don't know if they're in daycare, but hey, any time where you do not have to watch the kids, give that to, bettering yourself, and at the same time, I don't know what you do in your free time. I don't know if you have healthy habits. I don't know if you have unhealthy habits, but I will say if you find yourself, maybe on the phone a lot or, watching too much TV, replace that time with like taking in steps, getting in a workout maybe. Again, it's kind of vague considering, I don't know the nature of, how you are with your kids. Like, I don't know if they're like always at home, no school, or, if they even all got a stroller. But yeah, I think you should definitely text me again in further detail so I can further help you, because I do want a little bit one-on-one time to like help you personally. How often do I pray? I pray at least once a night, but I'm not gonna lie, guys, sometimes you definitely need to do it more. Every now and then, I'll do it when I wake up, but I really need to do it first thing in the morning, last thing before I go to bed. He woke me up and he made sure I made it through the day, right? But, I feel like, prayer is the main way we talk to God, right? I feel like, normalize, praying more than just once a day at night, you wouldn't text your dad or your mom, only before you go to bed. You wouldn't text your partner only one time before you go to bed. Keep them in your mind throughout the day. And, I'm not saying, I do this, I know I need to do this, but I'm just saying, just a little reminder for all of us that we definitely should be doing it at least 2 times a day, for real. What other baby names did we consider? Honestly, I wasn't the maker of the name Onyx. Yeah, Capriciana named Onyx. We had no other names. Didn't even think about my name. I'm a junior. I hate the name Timothy Joe Smith. Like, I don't like that name for real. But yeah, it's cool. But yeah, you ain't gonna catch Capriciana would never go for no junior. Capriciana never going for no junior now. But yeah, as far as like girl names, not gonna tell you guys girl names yet. I'm not gonna tell you guys girl names we've considered. Because who knows? Maybe it will be in the future. We'll see. But yeah, I really love the name Onyx. It just felt like it just kind of, I don't know. I feel like anytime I think of Onyx, I do think of like the stone. Some people think about the Pokemon, but I think about like the black onyx stone, right? And my mama actually made the middle name Mateo. Yep, that was nice. It was because I'm part Puerto Rican, so that kind of came from that. Onyx got a little bit of what is it? Not seasoned. He already seasoned, but I don't know. He got a little bit of salsa on him. Margaret asks, what is my favorite book in the Bible? I definitely still need to get, more familiar with all the books, but I feel like, so far, it might have to go to Exodus or, Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes, I feel like it has really good, morals. Is Ecclesiastes New Testimony or, New Testament or Old Testament? Y'all let me know in the comments. Yeah, I forgot. I'm pretty sure it's New Testament though. But Exodus, I love Exodus because it tells the story of Moses. And Moses is one of my most beloved people in the Bible. He wasn't the chosen one, but he was still used. You don't got to be chosen, but you can still be used by God, right? And I really do appreciate that because he spent all of his life, guiding the people out of Egypt to Israel. People be sleeping on the Bible. The Bible be having great stories. It has great, morals out of the stories. And I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate it or really even know all the stories. People know some of these names. Like people know Noah's Ark. People know Moses, but they might not know what Moses did. They know Jesus, but they don't know what everything Jesus had to do to prove he was the Son of God, right? But yeah, Bible history is one of the things that I really appreciate, and I feel like a lot of people don't know, and because they don't even know their Bible a lot in the first place, and I'm still learning myself, of course, I'm not perfect. I'm still learning the scripture myself, but, I'm learning, and as I learn more, the more engrossed I am in it. I want more kids. Yes, I do. I love kids. I loved kids before I had, Onyx. And, I feel like I always knew, I wanted to be a dad and, be a good dad. But I probably want like, one or two more. It might be, because Onyx can be a lot sometimes. He's not a bad kid or nothing, but, just having one kid in general, it does take a lot of time and attention off your hands. But yeah, definitely two for now. But maybe three. Maybe three if, me and Capriciana can handle it, Yeah, because a lot of times with marriage, a lot of times kids kind of be like a struggle within the marriage, and I just want to make sure when we're married and, we have our second kid, we can handle our second kid at least for like, 2 years and see like, okay, we can handle two kids. Okay, let's see how we do with a third, but no more than three. I'm not gonna lie, no more than three. I don't need more than three. You ain't gonna care. I remember before I was like, yeah, I do three by minimum, but like I can probably do like four max. Nah, buddy, I can't even do that now. How old was I when I found out I was about to be a dad? I was 19. I was young. I was a teenager still. I was turning 20 the next month, but still, teenager still. Regardless, even 20, kind of crazy. Can't buy a bottle, but can have a kid. But yeah, I was 19. It was cool, I was young. I feel like I probably took it better than, probably because I also, a few of my friends, they already had kids at that point. So it's like, but the thing is, if I'm being completely transparent, I didn't want to be the dad I've seen some of my friends be towards their kids. I feel like some of them are good. There's actually like two or three that I can think of now that are actually pretty good dads. But yeah, I feel like once I became a dad myself, you feel me, or knew I had a baby on the way, I couldn't, consider myself really a friend to people that I feel like aren't active in their kids' life for real, or like got, baby mama drama. Because I feel like you want to be surrounded by people you want to be like, or, be inspired by, right? Like you want to be around people that are either married or in a good relationship. You want to be around people that are good fathers, and, vice versa with women. You want to be around people that are good mothers. But, yeah, I couldn't surround myself with certain foolishness no more. What's my favorite thing about being a dad? Man, I feel like I love Onyx in general. Like he's just a really sweet boy, He has a really nice smile, but on a deeper level, I feel like I would say, I just love feeling like I'm actually doing it, like I'm actually doing the dad thing, I'm being a good dad, like, my biological dad, he wasn't there for me, so, I didn't have, I didn't have like that biological connection to go off of, but I will say, shout out to Arnold. He technically he's my stepdad, but I don't care. That man, he my daddy, you feel me? He's been my father figure. He's been the person I call dad. All of his kids, all his brothers, sisters, his parents, they my blood, right? Like no matter what, like you can't take nothing away from that man, right? So I had a father figure to go off of, right? And I'm really blessed because a lot of times when people don't have that biological figure no more, they don't get none, or at least none permanent. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't, my dad, he's not perfect, but, he kind of set the foundation for me to build off of. I might, tweak some things about, how he may have ran things in his household, but, he's still, there's still a lot of things about him that, the man I want to be for my son, because the way I look up to him now, you feel me? And just the way that I love him now, I want Onyx to feel the same way. Cause I feel like there's been times where I didn't completely understand my dad. I ain't appreciate him growing up. Cause my household, it was a very traditional dynamic. He was the breadwinner. My mama, she was the stay-at-home mom. So a lot of times he didn't have the time to give. He was working 50, 60 hours. A lot of times, I do want my dad, but I don't understand exactly where he's always going. I have a vague idea. I know he pays the bills. I know he keeps the roof over our heads. But as a kid, you do kind of need presents, and he did give me the presents, but I understood he couldn't always do that. But yeah, I love him for it. I understand his struggles way more now. He was a very quiet and humble man. I just appreciate him for it. And that's why I feel like I'm a big advocate for men's mental health, because I feel like I've only seen my dad cry one time. And it's like, that kind of like messed me up, because like, you supposed to be strong, you feel me? But, it's okay to, break down every now and then. You can only be strong for so long. The fact that he was strong enough to only show me one time, that goes without saying, But yeah, I've been speaking on my dad a little minute, but I just wanted to give him his flowers, you feel me? Because I ain't giving his flowers enough, growing up, and I feel like my siblings can all say the same, we love you, Arnold. That don't take nothing away from my mom, you feel me? But I always show my mom appreciation, so it's like, she gonna continuously get it, Just gotta make up for all lost time with my daddy, you feel me? But yeah, I feel like that be my inspiration for being a dad to Onyx. I want him to love me the same way I love my dad, and I want to love him the same. Biggest accomplishment and biggest regret. Okay, so I got the answer to this one is both. It is both Onyx and Onyx, right? And I know that sounds bad, right? It sounds bad. I love the fact that I have him, right? I love the fact that he's part of my world. You feel me? He's like my number 2 in life. You feel me? He's my number 2 on this earth, anyways, right? After like Capriciana, then Onyx, right? But at the same time, I regret it for the simple fact that I wasn't prepared or ready nowhere near enough, right? Like I could have worked on myself way more before I chose to pop out a kid, right? That's why it's like regret the pregnancy, don't regret the kid. I regret the timing, but I can never regret my kid. I can never regret Capriciana, you feel me? And so many things led up to me even meeting Capriciana and having Onyx, right? Like if things just went left, like if things went okay, I'm gonna give a little hint, right? If COVID ain't never happened, then I would have never had Onyx and I would have never met Capriciana, right? Type. But yeah, I think both of them things can be true at once, Yeah, and I don't feel like that makes me, a bad, father or no, I don't, of course, technically speaking, I don't got no regrets, but, I do kind of sometimes wish, I had Onyx, a little bit later, but it is what it is. He came when he came, I appreciate it. Love you, man. 5-year goals. 5-year goals is for me, 5 years, I'll be what? I'll be 27. 5 years, stability, peace, happiness, you feel me? And I still am sometimes, a person that, chases money too much, but I feel like, once you do realize money is you really just be using money as a tool for what you want out of life, then it gets so much simpler. Like, I really just been chasing peace, happiness, for a long time. And it's like, I just want that. That's all I want, and I see myself there in probably less than 5 years, honestly. That's why I'm doing stuff like, going to plumbing school, getting right with God, you feel me? Getting just making sure I'm a better person in general. Because all that, I feel like all of that would truly lead me to my peace. You know, as long as I keep God in the center, everything gonna work out for me. What do I do for work? I'm actually gonna do a surprise video on that. Yeah, I'm gonna do a surprise video on that. Y'all gonna see that soon, but yeah, it ain't no secret or nothing. I'm just gonna leave it for y'all later. My bad, I forgot. Those last 7 comments was from the house of Shalem. So thank you. Thank you all for everyone that commented. QAV, I don't know why, guys. I be having like a tongue twist. I don't know what be up with my vocabulary. If y'all ain't noticed, I can't get no CH or TRs right. Like it always come out as SH. And I know y'all know the truck. Don't say nothing right. Church. It sound like SH. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. I really like doing this. You know, it feel like, you know, it's just a way for me to like really kind of reflect on certain things and, you know, really delve into, you know, my past events that, you know, made me into who I am. And yeah, you know, I would love to do a part 2. You know, I might post again, you know, let you guys ask even more questions, you know. And I appreciate everyone that commented multiple questions too, because that's how I know y'all real ones. Y'all really care. You know, I really love all of y'all and love all you guys for wanting to get to know me. You know, I love getting to know you guys, you know, and also, you know, I need to get better at responding to comments. I'm finna probably spend the rest of the afternoon doing that now. I love you guys. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.